Here we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Coming Out Happy podcast. We're so glad that you're here. Just a little reminder before we get into our podcast today, it's going to be super special with an extra special guest. I cannot wait to share with you. If you're watching the YouTube video right now, I'm sure you can see her. She looks amazing. She's got all the decorations in the back. She's in a forest. It's beautiful. But I can't wait to share this guest with you today. But don't forget, we have our Dating Authentically Challenge coming up April 1st through the 3rd. This is the last weekend, right? Mm-hmm. Last weekend to register. Everyone loved it last time, so we're redoing it, and we can't wait to see you all there. Anything you want to add about the challenge?
No, I'm just excited to see all the growth that will happen.
Perfect. Okay, so let's get into our introduction for today. Lianne is a best-selling author. Let's hold up the book real quick. I gotta show you this
Here
book.
we go.
The cover of this book is so beautiful. And I read the book, so I'm just a big fan. But she's a life coach and a fitness instructor. She's a legacy Lululemon ambassador and has been the face of Ulta's Beauty Breast Cancer Awareness campaign for the last 2 years.
That's badass. There you go.
Yeah, her goal in life is to bring people together by sharing stories, empowering them to use their voice, and helping them feel seen and validated in their experiences, all while having fun, of course. She's a lot of fun. You'll get to know her. She lives in Portland, Oregon with her wife, 2 kids, 2 cats, and 11 disco balls. So now I have to ask, what does that mean, Lianne?
Oh man, I feel like everyone should own a disco ball. But there was a point in quarantine where I ordered some disco balls thinking they would be small. And when they came, they were like, it said 24 inches. And I was thinking maybe like a round, like circumference, but it was like a cross. And so it's like, you can't even hold it. And I was like, oh shit, what did I just do? But I realized when you're sad, you should probably just buy disco balls because they're all over my house and they make me so happy.
Oh
and
my
they make
God.
the light shine like on the ceiling in the middle of the day. And so now we have them in every room and we have them like in our gym and I just keep buying more.
Oh my God, I love it. And do you dance?
All the time.
Oh my gosh.
It's a house of 4 girls, so we're always like singing and dancing.
That's so cute.
Can
So
we get
some
some
disco balls?
I think we should now. That's a great idea.
So they're on Amazon.
I got them on eFavor Mart.
I've never heard of that.
Don't ask me how I found that. But like, I mean, they're literally huge. They range in size, but the biggest one I can
had one hanging behind you. Oh my gosh!
And there's some like up there too.
So decorative.
Like, yeah, but they're really inexpensive there, so I say go for it.
All right. Okay.
That's
I
our
guess
next
we'll be
purchase.
getting some disco balls. I'll send you a picture.
Yeah.
Okay. Before we jump in and really unpack your story, which I'm so excited. I can't wait to talk about the book and everything that you're doing. But let's give a little bit more context to some of our listeners. Who are you and what do you do?
Ooh, who am I? What a question. I was teaching a class this morning and I said, this song is short and sweet, just like me. And then I was like, you know what? I don't think anyone's ever described me as sweet in my life. So, which is totally fine by me. I'm nice. Man, who am I? I am a better version of who I thought that I was 10 years ago. I'll tell you how much. You know, like I said, I'm a wife and a mother and a writer, but I think lately the biggest thing is I am an advocate and a voice for people that haven't found their own, which is really, really empowering. I was on a call yesterday with a book club actually that brought me on, and this woman asked, was there a moment in your life that you knew that you were going to be like this powerful voice for women? And it just like kind of knocked the wind out of me in the best way, because I was like, wow, I don't always see myself that way, but that's what I want. And it's really cool to be seen like that. So I'm going to just fully embrace that and move forward with it.
Oh
That's
my
so
God.
cool.
I love that. And sometimes when we get those questions, you know, people ask us, did you ever think you'd be doing the work you're doing today? Or do you think you'd be where you are? And you just kind of go, oh my gosh, no, but that's like what I'm doing now. And I just want to embrace it fully, which I want to talk a little bit about. Please don't send me flowers, because it is, I couldn't, like, I like to read, okay? But not really the kind of reader that, you know, sits down and can't put it down. Like, I'll take maybe 2-3 weeks to finish something. I just could not get enough. And Danny was like, go to bed.
3 days.
Go to bed. Go to bed. And I was like, I can't. Like, I couldn't leave off at certain parts. You know, you got to keep reading. You
Yeah.
really made it so it was just like you were speaking to just me. and really walking me through every single part of your life. But I just love this story because throughout the whole entire book, you're showing your most authentic self. You're trying to get there from the very beginning, and throughout your story. And just like in the end, it was like this, oh my gosh, like I was just cheering for you. I just became like a raving fan because you were able to step in and fully embrace who you are. But can you give everyone a little background on what this book is about? Please don't send me flowers.
Yeah, so the book is actually in 3 parts, and it started with I was married to a man. I got married when I was 22 years old, which is way too young. Don't do it. Unless it's the right person, I guess. But I got married to a man. It was never a good relationship, but inevitably it just gets worse if it wasn't good to begin with. And he became very emotionally abusive. And while I knew what that was, it wasn't being talked about. We didn't start talking about emotional abuse or labeling it really until the last 5 years. And it was one of those things that I felt a lot of shame around saying because I was so afraid of judgment. And I was raised in a very religious household. So I was afraid to leave. Divorce was bad, right? Like it made you bad. And nobody believes you when you talk about emotional abuse. They're like, well, he's not hitting you, so go to therapy. But there are those people that you cannot change and they don't want to change themselves. And that's who I was married to. So we were married for 9 years, ended up getting a divorce. And then in the middle of the divorce is when I met my wife. And I had never thought of myself as being attracted to women, being gay, whatever. But it was just this undeniable connection. And I was like, fuck it. This is the life I want because it's like electricity when we're together and I don't care what anybody thinks. So there was this coming to terms with the fact that I could actually live my own life and not live life for other people. So blah, 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 we get married, super in love. And then 6 months later, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. So then it was honeymoon phase is over, but we didn't really have a honeymoon phase because she and I dated throughout my divorce. It was just hell.
And you kind of found out on your honeymoon, right?
Literally on our honeymoon that I had breast cancer. And I knew, but I didn't want to tell her because she would worry. And we were halfway across the world. So when I came home, it was confirmed. And we spent the first year of our marriage trying to keep it alive. So it was a pretty intense way to start a marriage, or even a relationship, divorcing a narcissist and being so in love at the same time and trying to protect my family and trying to deal with the judgment and the shame and the guilt. And then, yay, we're finally free. We get married and then smack in the face, oh, you could die. So the book kind of goes through all of that and how I decided to just very publicly go through cancer treatment and try to normalize it and try to be a voice for women that are sick, because what I knew about being sick was different than what I was experiencing. And I felt like I had an opportunity and almost I needed to just share what it was like for women, because I'm I'm not the only person this is going to happen to. Mm-hmm. And at the time I was 33 years old and I'm everyone that I'm meeting online that has this disease is my age. So it's not just for our grandma anymore. And so if I can help you who will know somebody, or it may happen to somebody in your family, it's 1 in 8. Yeah. So let me be a voice for you guys and let me show you that we can still be happy when we're dealing with this shit. And we need to be honest about what it feels like, and we need to come together and not look at people like they're sick, because this happens every day. Yeah. So that's kind of where the book goes. And
no one talks about that though. And you mentioned that in the book. They do not talk about what it's really like to experience that. And you went into depth on all of that and what you were really feeling and experiencing. Was it hard for you to go back and rewrite all of that?
Yeah, so I wrote the cancer part when I was going through treatment, and I think you can feel that when you're reading it. You're holy shit, this is a lot. But I'm
get your tissues.
Yeah. But I wanted, people had sent me books when I was diagnosed, and even though I was at the beginning of my treatment, I'm this isn't true. This is a sugar-coated lie. And when I was actually going through it, I'm here now, so let me write this down because I might not remember. As time goes, things soften. But I'm I don't want to soften it. People need to know, and this is going to be so helpful for women and men. So yeah, that's kind of like why I did it. Cause I'm just like, if I don't do it now, I won't remember. But the hardest part was going backwards. So I worked my way backwards. I started on the cancer piece and I worked my way backwards. And writing about my relationship with my ex was so incredibly hard because it was like reopening all of those wounds that I had worked so hard to close. And while it was different because I had done so much work, it's still really hard to like look back on text messages of what he would say to me and, like go through documents of reports, and it was
Yeah.
hard, but
Were you
it
afraid
was
to
such
share
important
that?
work. What was that?
Were you afraid to share that in the book?
100%. Yeah, I was so afraid because I'm like, what is he gonna do? And
Yeah.
like, what is this gonna do to people that know us? But it's been great. I mean, people are so thankful. Again, like on that call yesterday, this woman was like, thank you for saying the things that I never had the courage to say.
Yeah.
She's like, I feel validated in leaving the relationship that was strangling me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I see you. I get it. This is why I did this.
Yes.
You're really giving people hope, like, because a lot of people are so afraid of speaking up for what they want and what they need. Like, we see it happening in our world as well. It's just, you're really giving people so much power. And I know we appreciate you and love reading the book and love watching you do what you do on social media. I just want to say thank you for sharing your story as well. It's just so beautiful.
And just, it's so vulnerable. Like, we just need more of that in our world. So much of social media is so fake. And
Yeah.
just to see the real, what I loved what you did in the book is I love that you put, maybe we'll see if I can like find a little one here, but I love that you put yourself of like real posts that you put out. Hold on, I just went past one. Real posts that you put out and you put them in the book and really showed like what you were posting throughout that time.
Yeah.
And it just showed that you were just being so real and people needed to see that. Like, it wasn't, and we'll talk a little bit about what the title means, but a lot of people will just say, oh, how are you? Or try to say things that try to make it better, and it just doesn't make it better. So what does the title mean? Please don't send me flowers. Because that's what people do, right? They send flowers.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want sympathy. I just want us as humans to like, I want empathy. I want us as humans to understand each other more. So like flowers serve, in my opinion, some people love flowers, are beautiful. I think they're beautiful. I don't want them sent to me. They serve as like a band-aid, and it's something that kind of makes you feel better for doing something, right? When in reality, what somebody needs instead of flowers, for the most part, unless you're like celebrating something, right, is for you to just sit with them and hear them,
Yeah.
like weep with them if they're weeping, listen to them, be quiet with them if that's what they need. But like flowers, you're like, cool, check that off the list and I'm going to move on with my day.
Yeah.
It's not helpful. And for me, I literally, and I write about this, like I would be laying there with not enough strength to get off the couch and just like watching my flowers die. And I'm like, that's what I feel like. I feel like
Yeah.
I'm watching myself like as my eyelashes fall to the floor. So it's mostly just like, I don't want sympathy. Like, let's be real here.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's what you wanted people to see, is that you were still working out, right? You
Yeah.
were still doing everything that you could. You had your weekdays, but on the days where you had that even a little bit of strength, you were doing what you could to say, I'm still human, I'm still here, and I'm ready to live.
Yeah.
And you showed up for yourself. And like,
Totally.
that is so, so beautiful. And I think can apply to like so many different aspects of life. But this book, it still gives me chills even just thinking about it. Your story is so powerful, and I know that so many people are reading it and have read it and have felt the exact same way. I think I saw, and maybe I don't remember where I saw this, but it's right up there with Untamed by Glennon Doyle, right?
Yeah.
It was for the first week. That like shook me to my core, you guys, because I'm self-published and like they all have publishers and they have this like multi-million following. And I'm like, I'm just a girl from Oregon that self-published a book. But I mean, it did so well that first week that like she reposted it, a couple other like big names reposted it, and I was like, what is happening right now? Which is so amazing. And now, like it's dropped and whatever, but it's still, the sales are going well, but it's really, really almost impossible to do that as self-published. So
There's
I'm
a reason.
like shook by that.
There's a reason. And it's like it was even before like you wrote the book, it was already planned that that would happen and that it would reach the people that it needs to and people that need to hear your message. And I hope that the people listening right now are like, all right, I need this book. Where can I get it? Which you can get it on Amazon, right? That's the best
Yep.
place to get it.
Yeah.
Okay. And make sure you leave a review too. But yeah, but seriously, it's just so, so beautiful. But I know you talked a little bit about, and something that might relate to our audience is being part of the LGBTQ plus community and what that was like for you for the first time where you felt that attraction toward women. What was that like?
Yeah, I will say I felt an attraction towards women. She was my first and my last, but I have a pretty bad memory, and I remember the night that I knew that we were going to be together, like nothing else. I remember it more than like when I had my kids. But it's funny because when we met, I remember meeting her and I remember seeing her, and I swear to God, she was like had this glowing gold light around her and like glitter. I was like, who is this woman? I'm in awe. She's so pretty. Like, why is her mouth so interesting to me? And I just kind of like left and I was like, well, that's weird. I can't stop thinking about her. But in my mind, I'm not like, oh, she's hot, I want to get with her. I was just like, what is it about her that I'm so intrigued? And so we started hanging out and we became friends, but we were like addicted to being together. And I'm like, at the time I'm 31 and I'm like, I don't think adults are this obsessed with their best friends. Like this is something that my kindergartner is doing with her best friend,
Yeah.
So very confused by that. And we're both getting out of like pretty bad relationships. And then we went dancing one night. And that's the night that like, she pulled some guy off of me and she said, get off my girlfriend. And I was like, what? Like, I like the way that sounds. And she grabbed my hand and like, I had the chills. And then we had this moment when we were dancing and like, I swear the whole room went slow motion and it was like black and she was just glowing. And I was like, fuck. I was electrocuted and like, this is it. And I didn't know how she was feeling. And I was like, we've been drinking, whatever. So I'm like, I got to go home. I don't know what's going on. Like, I've never been attracted to a woman. I don't know what this means. I don't want to make a mistake. And the next morning we got together and I was like, what happened? And she explained the exact same thing to me without me saying it. And then we kissed and the rest is history. So,
oh my God.
I mean, it was like, it was the most certainty I've ever felt in my whole life. Like I questioned it for a nanosecond. And then I was like, nope, this is what everybody wants. This is what everybody searches for their entire life. And it's right in front of me.
Right.
Were you ever like nervous about what other people were going to think of you regarding that relationship?
I wasn't really nervous. Like at that point in my life, I had been through such hell trying to get out of my marriage that I wasn't so worried about what other people would think of me. Like I was worried to tell my family because of like religion and like the fact that it happened right after my divorce, or like during it. I wasn't afraid so much about my community or my friends. The only thing that I did kind of wonder sometimes was like, are they going to think that I was attracted to them in the past?
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that that was a thing. And I'm sure people feel that a lot, but I'm like, I wasn't looking at you in the locker room.
I was on the soccer team, so I like totally felt that. Like, oh my God, what are they gonna think? Like, we all had to shower together, you know? What I mean? Like, and I was the one that was like, I'll just go after everyone leaves because it's just like you don't even wanna. I don't know.
I don't want to make it weird.
Yeah. But so in that moment, you were just like, maybe the love overpowered everything, and of the pure love that was there for you.
Totally. Well, and I was like, you know what? In the end, we're going to be together. So we might as well just be together because I'm so sick of waiting for other people to say that it's okay timing for my life. Like, that's what it felt like I had been doing. Like, okay, we've seen enough with this marriage. Like, it's bad enough. Now you can go. And like, I just felt like I was constantly on somebody else's timeline. And then I was like, we could hide this for 3 years. Sure. But what's the point? Like, that's no way to live. So yeah, we were just like, fuck it, here we are. We hit it for a few months while we were trying to figure out logistics with like telling my family and like telling the kids and telling my ex, since I was still in the middle of everything. But after that, we were like, let's go.
And how do you feel now?
So great. I mean, we have the best life, and not saying it's easy, but I mean, she's the best decision I ever made.
Oh my God.
That's so cute. That's how I feel about you.
You can steal that and write it in a card. No,
will.
seriously, like we understand. I was like, we've knew each other more than anyone's ever known me or known her without even talking. Like those first couple months, she was like, how do you know me so well? I'm like, I don't know. Like we're just so in tune, and I can't even tell you how much better it feels from my first marriage.
Yeah.
Like this is the shit people talk about and that you don't believe is real because it hasn't happened to you yet, but
Yeah.
it's real. And like we're the annoying people, like when but
Yeah. Well,
it's so true.
we talk about that so much, and I'm sure you see we talk a lot about dating and people that feel like, maybe they are just getting out of a divorce, or maybe they've never dated before and they don't know it's possible that there is love out there, and it's so beautiful and profound, and it's like almost how you describe Steph, right? It's the glowing of certainty, and you just know. But a lot of times, and maybe this is true for you too, is that you had to really step into who you are to attract someone like Steph, right? To someone that is so aligned with who you are to your core. And we have to work on ourselves to get to that place. And sometimes that's why it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah. And it's a lot of trusting. It's like trusting yourself,
Yeah.
You
which
talk a
was
lot about that.
really hard. Yeah, it was really hard for me because I didn't feel like other people trusted me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I talk about in class a lot. It's like you can't fully show up for people unless you're fully showing up for yourself.
Yeah.
So it's so true. It's so true. And it's not easy,
Yeah.
but
No,
it's
I
so worth
love
it.
that. What ways were you showing up for yourself, and then it kind of spiraled into like the rest of your life? What was that like?
Good
I
question.
think it was a lot of like, great question.
Thank
I think it was a lot of unlearning, and maybe not even unlearning, but discovering more of who I was rather than who the world told me I should be.
Yeah.
So, opening my view on things and the world, and realizing that there wasn't just one way, and that if something felt good to me, I should try it. I should step into it. And if it didn't work, it didn't mean that I was failing. Like, I always say success is just failure on the floor. Like you just pick yourself up and you move forward. So I think it was a lot of just trusting and like opening up to different perspectives, different people, different ways of living, different ways of looking at things, and realizing that it wasn't just one way.
Yeah.
And that's like the most freeing thing you can do for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. What? Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, I was going to say, I remember you talking a little bit about, like, in the beginning, in your first marriage, you were feeling so far away from who you really were and you didn't know yourself. What was that like, reconnecting back to yourself and that process of starting? Because I think when we really start to trust ourselves, it's because we know ourselves, and we feel connected because we can recognize feelings that we have, right? We can recognize that voice in our head that's telling us to do something.
And to let go of all of those societal norms that you were talking about. Like there's so many things that the world tells us to be, and you just freaking shed them like it was nothing. How can you explain that you did that? I guess.
Man. I mean, I think I had an aha moment when I was in my first marriage, and I was like looking at my kids and I'm like, I don't want to model this for them. Like this isn't what living is. I want to show them what like a very happy, healthy relationship looks like, and I'm not being true to that. And I knew that because I had just kind of like sunken in, and I felt like I was watching somebody else's life, and that didn't feel good. It was like these two separate things. And so it was a lot of like, that was my aha moment of like, oh shit, something's got to change, and I've got to use my voice, and I've got to stand up for myself. Because I got so used to being beaten down and silenced, right? And I didn't feel like I had a place to step up or speak up. So yeah, it was a lot of like every day, like little pep talks and kind of visioning, right, my future. And it definitely didn't look like what I have now, but it looked better than what it was. I'm like, if I can just get to here, then maybe I can just get to there, right? But I have to do this, and it's not going to be easy.
I love that you're talking about like the little pep talks, because like that's what we do with ourselves. It's like whenever we're looking ahead and trying to be a
It's
better
not
person,
easy.
like, yeah, it's the hardest thing you can ever do. It's like actually help yourself, because everyone's so busy helping other people. But like, when is it like the time that you actually take care of yourself? Like, what
Yeah.
were those pep talks like for you?
Come on, Lianne.
You got this. No, I have like these little mantras that I repeat to myself. And you know, the first one that I can remember that I still say all the time is like step by step.
Mhm.
Just one, if I take one step today, like it's in the new direction that I want. So, you know, Steph and I say that all the time. We're like, step by fucking step, baby. Like, we got this. On days that we feel like we're totally dragging and things are going backwards, we're like, no, step by step, you know? And it's a lot of like, I can and I will. Like, I'm willing to do this. I've got this, you know. And it sounds so cheesy, but it really is like these daily affirmations for yourself. And it's like, write it on your mirror if you have to.
Yeah.
And do that too. It's like, we always write at the beginning of the year like 3 things that we want to feel for the year, and we put them on our mirror and we look at them all year and we're like, okay, are we feeling that? Okay, no, well, let's step back, like realign, give ourselves a pep talk. Like, how do we get to here? How do we get to there? So
Yeah. Oh my God, that's so beautiful.
I love that
It
the
just
both of you are working on that together.
it reminds
as well.
of us.
That's awesome.
It reminds me of us. Like, that's literally what we do, because obviously we're working together. We're trying to, you know, create this life that we want. And you got to be aligned in some way, because if someone's off when you're really spending your life and creating it with your partner, you got to do the work together. And we have that too, where we write things down, or we had something on our door where we cross things off, and just like, it's a great feeling to know that you have someone to do that with and that wants that same vision. But I don't think that comes until we really start loving ourselves first. You
100%.
can't give it. Like you said, you can't give what you don't have to someone else in that way. And that's, oh my gosh. Do you feel like in the very beginning of your relationship with Steph, you were able to give that to her?
Yeah, I do, because I feel like once I got out of my first marriage, I was like, I am on top of the world.
Yeah.
I'm going to do what I want. I'm going to say what I want. And like, if it pisses somebody off, that's not about me. That's about them. Right.
Yeah.
So I was feeling so empowered and just so ready. I was like, life, come at me. And it did. It came at me like so hard. But I felt like I was so ready to just like, I was open arms. I'm like, bring it on. Here it is. Whatever you got.
So pretty.
Yeah.
So furry too.
Yeah, he's a fluffy boy. He
my
just eats and sleeps right now. He's
God.
yeah, but I think, you know, had I not taken the steps to get out of that place, I wouldn't have been there.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to like go through some shit before you can go there, and it's not easy and it's not always pretty, but God, it's worth it.
Yeah, totally.
Absolutely.
Well, I absolutely love that. And just going back to a little bit about what you said about Steph, I want to ask you, was it that moment, the first moment that you knew she was the one, or was there another moment where you're like, okay, like this just locked it into place, like something that she did or anything that really just made you know, like, I have to marry you now?
You know, it's so funny because I like go back between the moment that I saw her and then the moment like at the dance club. And I'm like, did I know the moment I saw her? Like, is that what that feeling was? I don't know. And I don't know that I'll ever be able to articulate it. But it was 100% like that moment in the dance club where I was like, I'm so done for. I gotta go. Like,
you can see the smile on your face. Like, if you're maybe listening, you would see that Lianne's just glowing right now. So you'll have to pull this back to Steph.
Yeah, you're gonna have to put it as a clip.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was the most certainty I've ever felt in my whole life. And I didn't know how I was gonna do it. I didn't know how I was gonna pull it off, but I was like, I'm gonna do it. Step by step, right? Like,
Yeah.
Always.
Oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. Well, I want to ask you our signature question that I really feel you embody so much, and I'm so excited to hear your answer. But what does being authentic mean to you?
man, I feel like, God, you have to like embody it. It's almost like that moment that I just described, like after my divorce, where I just like opened up my arms and I was like, bring it on. Like, I'm going to show up 100% in what feels good to me for the world. And it doesn't have to be for everybody. That's being authentic.
Yeah.
You're a badass.
I
love this.
This is so good, and I want everyone to read the book. So let's talk a little bit about where people can find you and how they can get the book and everything like that.
Okay, so the book is called Please Don't Send Me Flowers, and the easiest way to get it is on Amazon right now. Yeah, all the things. I'm recording an audiobook soon, so if you don't read, just keep watching out for that. You can follow me on Instagram, Lianne Saffer, and then I have a website that you can click on from there as well, but mostly Instagram. That's kind of where I'm at. I don't know how to tweet. Apparently people still do that. Yeah, everyone's like, you should get on TikTok. I'm like, what's TikTok? I'm old.
No, you should get on TikTok. You should be sharing your
that'll be a
story.
separate call. You guys can give me a tutorial because I tried. Like, this is so lame. I gotta go. But yeah, Amazon, if you want to support your local bookstore, which I'm all about, you can go in there and be like, hey, can you order me this book? And they can get it for you. So it might not be in stock, but they'll order it for you. It's available. So
awesome. That's so amazing. And I just know that so many of our listeners are going to benefit from this conversation and really take something away so powerful, the step-by-step, just everything we talked about. And I know that if you're listening right now and you're like, I'm going to get the book right now, and you will just sit and make sure you have time, because you're going to be able to just sit and you're just going to read it, get your box of tissues, get a nice cold drink, whatever, your coffee, and just sit. And it's so beautiful, Lianne. Like, your story this is one of my favorite books I have ever read. And it's just because you're so real. You're so real.
Thank you. It's so funny because we got introduced through another podcast host, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I should send him a book. And like, I send random people books all the time, but you never know if they're going to read them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, people are like, oh, cool, random girl. Like, I'll put it on the shelf. So it's so fun to like know that you read it and you loved it. And like, it had the impact that I wanted it to have. And like, you want other people to read it. I just think it's so amazing. So thank you.
Well, it just, to me, it was so first class that you were like, let me send you a book. You even wrote in it. And I was just like, oh my gosh, you wrote my name. I was like, okay, this is so amazing. You wrote your whole story. And I wanted to just I love learning from other people. I think you can learn so much when you take a chance and you just listen and you open yourself up to those other relationships in your life. And I learned so much. And that's why I was like, I have to share you with our world because they need to see you. So
everyone can benefit from hearing more people being their authentic selves and what their past has been like to get them to where they are today. Seeing you with Steph, like, you're living your best life. It's like, how did you get there? All right, here's the book, here's the story. But it's like, it's so inspiring. So we'll never stop sharing your story as well.
Thanks.
Yeah. Well, we'll wrap up here today. I just want you all to remember, don't forget, we have our Dating Authentically Challenge. It's April 1st to the 3rd. So this will be the last weekend that you can register for that. You wanted to add? We're really going to map out your dream relationship. Everyone loved it last time. And you'll be able to see the Instagram posts of what people said who attended last time and just got so much out of it. So we hope to see you there. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast today. We love you all so much. Thank you, Lianne. You are amazing, and we can't